So, guys, here we are, episode 14 of the Online Trainer Show. We're excited. 14 is a good number, right? And if you guys remember, on 13, I predicted that this would be the 14th episode. Again, because that's how numbers work. You know, some call me a magician, some call me a genie, some call me a soothsayer. And, you know, I'm the Nostradamus of our times. So, Jonathan, here's an interesting tidbit. I don't know if you're aware of this, but you and I were on the same podcast on the same day. Of course,
I was aware of that.
Yeah, you knew this?
Yeah, she told me she was interviewing you afterwards.
Yeah. So we were our buddy Karina Inkster, who's the can I say the BS? The no bullshit.
We talked about ball hammocks a week and a half ago.
I mean, you know.
I think we're past that point, Ren.
You can say the word BS. Yeah.
I'll proceed. So Karina Inkster, the No Bullshit Vegan podcast, which is a great podcast, by the way. So, you know, ironically, Jonathan recorded an episode with her on the same day that I recorded an episode. We're not on the same episode because that would be just silly. But she told me to tell you, Jonathan, how much more interesting my episode was than yours. She said, she didn't even use your first name. She said, let me tell you about Goodman. This guy rambles incessantly. Like, he's like a wild bull out of and you're like a matador just dodging his incessant stories and rambling. You know, she said, by the way, he needs a haircut. It showed up on it. We heard his hair on audio. It's terrible. She said, but just make sure that you tell. She implored me, Jonathan, to make sure that I told you on this episode how much better my episode with her was and how much more interesting I was. And she said it was a total waste of her time. You blew it, basically. The podcast, it may not even air. I just wanted to, and I mean that in a loving way. I mean that with love, Jonathan. So
sounds entirely like something she would say.
Yeah, so I had a great time talking to her. She did say that she stumped you on one question or so.
You know what it was? When you do a lot of interviews and speaking and stuff like that, and I don't do as much speaking anymore since Calvin was born, but I used to do a fair amount of speaking. And when you do a lot of it, you kind of expect the exact same questions all the time.
Right.
It's actually something that they do when they train speakers is they basically say, have 5 or 10 stories in your back pocket. Right. And you can just practice those stories, make them good, and you can just go to those stories anytime that anybody asks you a question, and you're always going to have a really good answer. If you listen to the same speaker a bunch of talks by them, you will hear the same story over and over and over and over again. And so this is kind of what I do. And I've gotten to be really, really good at not answering the question, but instead talking about what I want to and spinning the question into something that I want to talk about. And usually that's done through storytelling.
Right.
And so it's basically what every politician does, by the way.
Right.
Like politicians don't answer questions. Like it's press, like it's ridiculous. They don't answer questions.
It's cookie cutter.
It's cookie cutter. They talk about what they want to talk about. They all have agendas and they just manipulate the question to speak about it. But anyway, she asked me a really interesting question that was something that I did not have a practiced response for.
Right.
Is what happened. And so I decided to answer it. And so it wasn't that she stumped me. It was not something that I had a practiced answer for. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. I've done 17 podcasts in the last 3 weeks. And first time this has happened.
Whatever you want to tell yourself, Jonathan. So we're going to talk about how to save tons of time overnight today, by the way. That's our topic today. Apparently, Jonathan saves tons of times by having 5 preset answers for every podcast he gets on. No need for him to spend his time researching or being interesting in any way. We appreciate you for that, Jonathan. That's a good lesson for the rest of us. So basically what I'm saying is I was better on the podcast. We can leave it there. We can agree to disagree, Jonathan. But you know who's the best podcast I ever heard in my life ever?
What's that?
Aside from Conan O'Brien, it was PT Distinction. PT Distinction, they're the leader in online personal training software built for trainers who are changing the world. They actually do not have a podcast, but they do have 60 days free trial for you right now. If you head on over to onlinetrainer.com/PTD, Jonathan Goodman, who is not in any way interesting, but is an awesome negotiator, negotiated that deal for you. He fails at podcasts regularly. You guys have seen that here, but he's excellent at driving deals for the online trainer community. Speaking of, should I talk about the Online Trainer Academy, Jonathan? Is that okay?
May as well. We've gone this far.
Whatever. I've already depressed you early in this episode. You look so sad, guys. Watch the YouTube version of this and just see how solemn, how saddened I've made Jonathan Goodman within the first 3 minutes. Online Trainer Academy, really the expert in helping you negotiate online training. I don't have my paper, Jonathan, so I'm making up the ad as I go along. But expert information, expert advice, and expert methodology to learn how to train online. Online Trainer Academy. You can go over to onlinetrainer.com/academy and get enrolled in that. We'd love to have you. Jonathan, I know you're sad, but would you like to start the episode now?
You didn't even need the paper. We had like 20 phrases on that piece of paper.
I'm a genius. I'm a genius now.
In terms of sheer charisma, in terms of on the spot funny.
Here we go.
There's no comparison.
Here we go.
You got me. There's no comparison. So I don't doubt it. I mean, on another podcast, yeah, you're probably a better guest than me.
Yeah, I've never written any books though, so we're even.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Goodman, and welcome to the Online Trainer Show. Today is episode 14. 14. As Ren said, 1 after 13. That's how you keep track of them. It goes 13, 14, and the next one's going to be 15. And today we're talking about how to free up tons of time overnight. Thanks for being here.
This is the Online Trainer Show. Trainer Show. Trainer Show. This is the Online Trainer Show.
We shouldn't have a podcast. So
Surprise.
like we've already started. Catalina, just save the show. Like, do you have anything interesting to talk about?
Do something endearing.
Get us on track.
Something endearing. You want to know what I'm doing? I'm picking up the skin of my calluses, like from my hands from lifting. Like, is that endearing enough? I don't know.
Still far better than where we're tracking with the show at this moment.
Considerably. It's on a different level.
That's actually an improvement.
As low of a bow as that is to set,
right.
It's still high enough that I feel like we won't ever match it again.
She just improved the show tremendously with dead skin, ladies and gentlemen. So, Keto, I'm noticing that you're even more angelic than you usually are. Talk to us about the extensive lighting kit that we're seeing here. It's amazing.
So I'm so pumped about this because I'm doing some videos for Girls Gone Strong. So Molly sent me some light rings, you know, like the kind that you see like on TikTok and all this kind of stuff. And she actually knows me enough to be like, she's like, here you go. Now you're going to be unstoppable. Selfies for days. And I'm like, yes, like I feel powerful right now. All the power is mine.
It's never any short. For those of you that follow Catalina on the internets, on the World Wide Web, which Jonathan Goodman invented. For those of you that follow her, you know that there's no shortage of selfies that happen in Catalina. Like no shortage whatsoever. It's an abundant, nearly an incessant amount of selfies. And when beach season happens, they're like Gremlins, another 80s movie reference. They multiply. Just like Gremlins, when you add water to Catalina's selfies, they multiply. Just like Gremlins. So now that she's got a ring, will you be taking the ring light outside into the sunlight as well, Carolina? Is that how
I would need to get a battery pack for it because it needs to be plugged in for now. So I guess I gotta gear up,
you would consider supplementing the natural orbiting star around this planet.
100% would be that obnoxious person pretending to be like an influencer taking selfies at the beach. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You see that a lot. Like a surprising amount. Like I'm going in public a lot. What's actually really nice about what's going on with COVID-19 is it's become acceptable to be how I am naturally.
Yeah, it's like your life didn't really change. You're like, what isolation? I don't understand what that means. It's just life.
It's like, oh, I don't have any plans this weekend. Oh, cool. Yeah, me neither. It's like, now this is normal, right? Like, oh, what are you doing for the next couple of weeks? It's like, oh, I don't have much going on. Probably not really seeing any friends or doing anything social. Yeah, man, me neither. I know, hard times, right? I was like, yeah.
You know what I just realized? You know what I just realized, Jonathan? You know, as you say this, you are the Bruce Wayne of personal training. Like you're the Bruce Wayne of the training industry. Sure, Bruce Wayne fakes it to seem like he's social. Like he'll do a party where he can be seen, but the reality is he's in the Batcave most of the time thinking of new stuff. Like, and then when you need him, he shows up like Batman. You know, that's what
This
Jonathan
is
Goodman.
Spot on.
Yeah,
I agree. Spot on.
Like when something's going on.
I do just leave sometimes. Like if I'm done, I'll just leave.
Yeah.
It's really not nice. But
oh my god.
But that's kind of the introvert, I guess, part of me is if I'm done, if I feel like there's nothing else for me to say, I'm just like, well, I just don't need to be here anymore.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a Bruce Wayne thing. I don't know. This probably isn't a Bruce Wayne thing, but I just wanted to publicly thank Molly Galbraith for helping fund our podcast by buying equipment that we should have bought as a company for our podcast hosts. And because we didn't, Molly and her great team at GGS. For anybody who doesn't know, like Molly is a close, like one of my closest friends. We actually lived together in the winters for many, many years. Molly and her boyfriend, Casey, and my wife and I will actually have shared houses and apartments and stuff like that all throughout the world on multiple occasions for months on end. Like we've lived in the same house in Costa Rica, in Uruguay, in Dominican Republic. I think that might be it. Probably a few other places.
Not Devil's Tip though.
Yeah, well, we didn't stay in the same place in the Devil's Tip in Punta del Diablo, but they
who
were
does
with us.
Who does stay in the same place at the Devil's Tip?
Yeah, right. Wait.
It's hot there, from what I understand.
They liked Uruguay so much that they didn't want to go home, and so they actually extended their trip and stayed with us in Punta del Diablo. Actually,
yeah. So Molly's awesome. Awesome people. Casey's just as awesome. I met them separately and didn't know they were associated together at your thing. At your, I was in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
But now it makes sense. They're the perfect All-American couple. They both have perfect hair all of the time.
Are.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
He's Casey. Molly's boyfriend Casey has perfect hair, perfect teeth. Was a collegiate football player and owns a mattress store. Like, if that's not the stereotype 100%, American man.
Yes.
Agreement.
Totally.
No disrespect to Canada, but I remember standing there at the Hockey Hall of Fame. And this will sound irreverent, but I'm an American, so, let's preface it with that. I'm standing next to this, like, 6 foot, he's 6'19". That's probably not a real number, but he's 6'19". Standing this guy, he looks like any moment he's gonna rip his shirt off, and there's an S on his chest. And he turns to me, he looks down at me because I'm like 2.5 feet shorter than him. He says, "This would be a lot cooler if there's an NFL Hall of Fame." I was like, "Dude, you're an American." and Jonathan, this is the day that I met you. That night. And you remember I met Molly in that rented office that you had. By the way, guys, our topic today is how to free up tons of time overnight. We'll get to that in a second. But you remember I met you that day.
When we're done wasting time, we'll get to that.
Yeah, after we're finished wasting your time, we're going to tell you how to save tons of it. So it'll even out. It's going to balance out in a second. They'll cancel each other. You're
basically going to end up exactly where you started.
Right. You're going to end up exactly where you started at 101, whatever. But so I met Molly that day in that rented office that you had, and talked to her. I fangirled out.
Yeah, it was a film
Molly.
studio. Yeah, it was
in the studio. And then that night I meet Casey, and they're totally separate.
Right.
The next day, I go to the first day, what was the first day of your convention, and I see Casey, and Casey's like, "Ren." And Molly's like, "How do you know Ren?" And he's like, "Everybody knows Ren." So they didn't know. Yeah, they didn't know that they had both met me.
That
on
was
the
a
same
cool
day.
night, though, man. This was
cool.
So fun.
the last major conference I put on. It was in Toronto at the Toronto Convention Center, and we rented out the night before for the like pre-party. We rented out the Hockey Hall of Fame
Baller.
and had a
I was
party in the Hockey
there.
Hall of Fame. It was
I was
sweet.
there with my 6-month-old baby, and I
were?
didn't ask for permission. I couldn't leave her because she was nursing at the time, and Toronto's like an hour and a half away from me, so I couldn't be away from my baby for that long. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm not supposed to bring a baby, but I'm just not going to say anything, and I'm just going to show up with a baby. And I did, because I didn't want to miss out.
It was cool though. It was a cool night. We had the Stanley Cup there. We had everything, and it was it was a couple nights before, actually. I think it was the Penguins maybe that year that won the Stanley Cup, but it was like a few nights before the Stanley Cup was awarded. So it was a super cool night. It was fun.
That was awesome. That was an awesome night. That
was cool.
Keto, that sounds so like you.
I didn't want to miss out.
Yeah, that's just an apt description of you summed up your entire personhood in that one statement.
That's right.
I wanted to go. It was an hour and a half away. Had my 6-month-old baby. I didn't ask permission. I showed up. Like, that sums up pretty much every life decision that I'm familiar with about you. I don't know you that well.
Yes, thank
that
you.
fits adequately into the packaging of who the well-lit packaging of who Catalina Belmonte is, Carolina.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Just do things and then give explanations later if needed, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Figure it out.
Later.
It's fine. Yeah.
Forgiveness rather than permission, right? So
100%.
now that we've wasted tons of your free time, we actually have a topic that's going to tell you how to save tons of free time. And I'm interested in this. I don't know if I'll be interjecting here because I don't know that I'm particularly great at this yet.
Mm-hmm.
But if I have anything, I'll defer to Keto. She's smarter than me anyway. We'll hit the in the field correspondent here. But Jonathan, talk to us about saving time, or maybe even just talk to us about wasting time. Do we even know as coaches when we're wasting our time?
Well, probably not. That's a good point. But the best part about saving a lot of time is then you can waste a lot of time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I
that.
think, wasting time obviously has a negative connotation, but letting time pass at a good pace without having a particular job or feeling pressure that you need to do something during that time is one of the beautiful things about life.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people kind of miss that because they're so worried about wasting time. And they're worried about wasting time because they're not yet in control of their time.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk about getting back in control of your time. And I want to talk about starting the process of doing that, which can be difficult when you are over busy and it feels like you have to do way more than you have time for already and have so many pressures, family dependence, that type of thing, in addition to jobs, in addition to stuff you feel like you should be doing for your clients, for your marketing, for whatever. How do you possibly spend more time then to figure out how to save time, right? How do you start this process? Where does it begin? And then how does it begin to accumulate? Because you can't just go, one of the big, I want to talk about obviously delegating and hiring virtual assistants. I also want to talk about personal management systems as well and blocking off your time in your schedule. And I'll start with virtual assistants because we hear this a lot in our communities. People say, "Oh, how do you hire a virtual assistant? Where can I find a good virtual assistant?" I hear a lot, and I think that this is a very good problem to want to solve. I think it's a very poorly intended question to ask. A lot of people say, "Oh, I hired a virtual assistant before and they were bad." They probably weren't. What most likely happened is that you did a bad job managing them and offsetting duties to them. You can't expect anybody to come into your life for your business and understand anything about how you operate or how you like to talk about things. It's just not possible. And so the first step is to actually plan for a virtual assistant way before you need one.
Right.
And I'll tell you what the process is, because I think everybody, if you haven't yet started doing this, I get asked on every single podcast and every single interview I've ever done ever, I get asked the question of knowing what you knew now, what would you do different when you started? Which the token answer to that question is the silly one that doesn't help anybody, but every single thought leader always says, thinking that they're sounding like sage, is this idea of, oh, I wouldn't do anything different because everything I did, even though it was a bad thing, taught me a lesson, so I wouldn't do anything different. It's like, yeah, no, that's not helpful to anybody though. So cool that worked for you, but I'm trying to solve a problem here. And what I would do different is I would have started documenting what I did every single day much earlier. Way before I needed to offset it. And that's as simple as everything you do, most jobs that you do, when you do it, it's actually not that much more work or time or effort to write down a quick bullet point list of exactly what you did so that somebody else could follow it. And the way that we organize this is I keep a Google sheet that's our wiki. This is actually turned into a master's operations doc. So like this is used by 30 plus people now, but it's a wiki and it can turn into SOPs, standard operational procedure documents and stuff like that. But for the time being, it doesn't even need to be like, we have a format that they're all written and stuff like that. You don't even need that yet. But can you write out what you do in a way that somebody else can understand it and pick that thing up? If you answer an email, right? If you send a client workout, if you put a piece of content on the net, whatever it is, how do you log into the thing? What button do you push? What hashtags do you use? Whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Can you write this stuff out when you do it and continue to improve it as you do it better and better and better? And you'll find that there's probably not that many different tasks that you're doing. But if you do that, and then every time you answer a question for a client, for example, or a client inquiry or something like that, how you deal with it, like write that out so that somebody else could understand that. Then when it comes time to begin the process of delegation, you're not going to hire a virtual assistant full-time on day one, because then you have to train them full-time. And if you don't have the policies and procedures around to train somebody who's a full-time staff member, it's going to be a lot of manual work to train that person. Which means that you probably want to bring them on for like 5 hours a week. Then maybe move them up to 8, then maybe move them up to 10 as they get to know you better. And what you do is you basically just write a list of like stuff I do, stuff I hate doing, stuff I like doing. Ideally, by this point, the majority of jobs that you're doing, you'll actually have written out. And then you can basically just like pick up a pile or send links to this person and say, this is the stuff I don't like doing here, right? And they have it. And they know the language that you respond in. They know how to speak in proper jargon to your clients because you have that all kind of written out. That's kind of the first step with virtual assistants. It's a matter of not thinking that you're going to find somebody who's like perfect, who knows you really well, because you're never going to. It's doing the work beforehand strategically in a way that only takes a couple extra minutes a day on top of what you're already doing, because you're already doing these things. And then just having a simple system for categorizing it, right? Which basically means save the Google Doc to all on one spreadsheet. That's kind of it. And then when it's time to hire somebody on, you can give them that document and then at least work off of that. It might not be perfect yet, but then that person can take a look at that document and say, okay, I got a question on this. And then you can answer the question versus trying to tell them how to do every single thing. And then as they work on it, you'll probably figure out that you maybe didn't give the best instruction, but then you're going and improving your documentation for your company. You're not telling one person how to do one thing different. You're improving the documentation, which means that if that person goes away or that person doesn't work out or you need to bring in somebody else or whatever, now you have better and better and better and better documentation. That will alone save you so much more time. And I wanted to see if you guys have any reactions to that. I have a couple like very specific notes of tactical stuff that I think everybody should start doing as well to solve very specific problems, and like some other stuff away from virtual assistant, but I'm happy to talk about virtual assistants a bit more if you guys want to.
I'll defer to our infield correspondent. I can tell you up front, it scares the crap out of me. It really it always has, and I think because I've never thought of it in terms of progressively doing something. And that's a recurring theme on the show, right? Like a lot of times we talk about these business practices and then we'll turn around and say, but as trainers, we tell our clients, you start small and then you build your endurance and you get consistent and then you increase. But as business people, I'm like, I need to hire the perfect virtual assistant who can do everything, like the same way that Anne Hathaway and I forget the other girl's name could do for the lady in Devil's Wears Prada. Like they're perfect already. They know everything that. So Keto, like what's your feeling? Like have you ever done this? First of all, Catalina, and number two, if you haven't, are you just as just as scared as I am to bring somebody into your business?
Yes. So I have had a virtual assistant. Actually, I had one a couple of years ago specifically because I needed help with some video creation. And that was kind of like her specialty. So she took over kind of like editing video and sound for me. She was really good at it. And it was wonderful because it was a learning curve that I could not afford the time to learn myself. So I had to delegate that to someone, but it was a very specific task. And so in our case, it worked out really well because I knew exactly what I needed from her. And she kind of, we were similar personalities. So she caught on to my vibe and everything. And so, it was awesome.
That is really scary.
Two of them, man. Two of them.
Two of us. Yeah. Two of us.
I thought I was scared of hiring a virtual assistant, but I realized what I'm really frightened of is hiring a virtual assistant like Keto. The shiver that went down my spine when she said she was just like me. I almost lost consciousness. God help you both. May God have mercy on your souls.
Awesome.
So Jonathan, I've got to follow up to this, and I'll let you go into your next part. But this reminds me of your potential other book that you may have called The Ignorance Quotient, et cetera, et cetera. But what I'm getting at is like, where is that line between I can spend money for this, or you use too much time trying to learn. You see what I'm getting at? Like I do my own video.
What I'm hearing, let me try to put it in different language, because what I'm hearing is you kind of hear this all the time. It's like when you don't have a lot of time, you have to spend money. When you have a lot of money but not much time, you spend money. Right. Where's that line?
And is there a line? I mean,
yes, I think that there is, and I think the line has to do with understanding profit margin. Actually,
gotcha. You got to know the numbers. Tracks back.
You got to know the numbers a bit. I think it all kind of follows from that. If you know what profit margin you want to take at the end of the, a lot of people in business don't really actually look at. A lot of people in fitness business, particularly online fitness business, don't, because it's so ingrained into us to view a business as a job. We basically take a salary for our business, but really a business's job is to pay the people a salary who work in it and shoot off profit for, in the way of dividends, in the way of whatever at the end of the year for the owner of the business. That's why you own a business. And so, so being able to take a good salary means that you're working in a job. Being able to derive profit from your business means that you own a business. Right. And so it's valuable to basically look at it and say, okay, what profit margin do I want optimally to be at? Do I want to be at 20 or 30%? A lot of online businesses, particularly fitness businesses, the way that we teach people in the Online Trainer Academy generally start at an 80 to 90% profit margin, which is insane. Right. There's no way that you can maintain that. Like basically the bigger your numbers are, generally there are some business models that kind of skirt this, but for the most part, the profit margin goes down. Right. And if you can maintain like a 20 to 30% profit margin, you're doing pretty well if you've got a couple $1 million business. And so whatever you're at, I would say start with what profit you want to take out of the business. So pay yourself salary, right? And then what profit do you want to take out of the business? Okay. And I'll tell you an example, for this online fitness company that we're building, where we're going to be actually working with trainers on their fitness that I'm super, super excited about. I basically looked at that and I said, okay, I know what profit margin we want to take out of this business. How much money are we going to make? based off of different amounts of clients. Well, then I worked backwards and said, okay, well, now I have this amount of dollars basically to spend on the business. That means that I can spend that amount of dollars on staff, on development, on advertising, on marketing, and whatever it is. And what we found actually when I did all that math was I kind of said, cool. Like there's actually a little bit more than I thought when we worked through all of this.
Right.
Well, now there's extra, which means that I, as a business owner, can say, cool, I'm going to take, a higher profit margin, but I don't want to do that because if I took a higher profit margin, it might actually eat into the growth of the company. This is something that you start to figure out as you go. So then I said, well, how can I basically outsource and delegate more and invest into this to save more time and make our lives easier? So then we went out and we actually invested in a company to develop the whole platform for us that we were otherwise going to do ourselves because there's a little bit of extra money in the pot. So wherever you're at now, I would say look at the profit margin that you optimally want to make. If you're not anywhere close to that yet, well, then you might not be quite ready to hire somebody else. Then you need to take a step back and say, how can I make this thing more efficient for myself? Am I doing a lot of things that are actually not directly leading to revenue? What is it that I'm doing that is directly leading to revenue? Okay, I'm going to do more of that and less of this, at least for the time being,
right,
to get to this point. And then when you're at that point and you have a little bit more money to deal with, then you look and say, okay, I'm making my salary. I need 20% profit or 30% profit of this business in addition to my salary, which means that I've got X amount of dollars effectively to play with. I mean, invest wisely, but effectively to play with. And that'll help you dictate too how you grow your staff. We had a question in one of our groups too. I think it was our Online Trainer Academy student group, somebody whose business is growing and they're hiring other staff. And they basically asked, hey, what do you guys pay your staff? If you're hiring online trainers to work for you under your company umbrella, it's not what do you guys pay your trainers? That's not the right question to ask. The right question to ask is, how much can I pay my trainers?
Right.
Based off of the business model that I want, based off of the vision that I want. And so again, it starts with profit. What profit margin do you want to be at? And then what incentives do you want to optimize for? In an online training business where the owner operator is largely responsible for the marketing, the intellectual property, the curriculum, and the sales, a coach coming in really shouldn't be paid that much for the clients that they deal with at the beginning. Because the truth of the matter is, they're pretty expendable. But once that coach is able to retain clients, and Ren, you're going to be one of our coaches for this online fitness service, so this is the thought process behind the model that I put out to you. Once that coach retains clients, well, then they're super valuable. So the payment model that we built out is for the first 3 months that you're working with the client, you actually don't get paid a ton. But if you renew that client, your pay rate effectively doubles.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, that goes beyond virtual assistant, but it's just kind of mindset of how do you begin the process of growing the business? And it starts with the one thing that for some reason, a lot of people kind of ignore or never think about, which is like, how much money do I want to take? Like the only reason that businesses exist is to generate profit.
Right.
Like that's whether you like that or not, that is the foundation by which all capitalism and corporate activity is based upon.
Right.
And if you can't do that, or if you don't guide your business based off of that core principle, that core tenet, then you don't have a business, you have a job, which is totally cool.
Right.
But understand that you're not going to be able to grow it and scale it and remove yourself from it.
Still, it's like, it's the efficiency of having, say, Molly Galbraith donate lighting to Catalina to make our show better.
That's just pure strategy, my friend.
Yeah. She said, Molly Molly, you're sort of looking like a lollipop over there too, my friend. A little bit of a sucker. But we love you. We just love Casey more. Everybody does. We all know that.
She knows that.
Hey, Casey's the real
that.
link to that thing. I only met Molly so I could get close to Casey because he's awesome.
I didn't know that he talked to you about the football Hall of Fame though.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, that was so funny, man. I was like, dude, you're American.
Yeah.
You speak American.
I don't understand why there are people with knives on their feet. Where are the cornfields? Why are there no cornfields?
These guys run on these blades, man. You can't run a 14-yard out and catch a pass from Joe Montana or Tom Brady in these skate things. It's weird. But it's Canada, eh?
Joe Montana.
Right, Joe Montana.
I'm actually a much bigger Brett Favre fan.
Brett Favre. That's football for the Canadians listening. So
all I know.
So Jonathan, so take us through those points because Catalina's successfully executed this. She's hired a successful virtual assistant. I'm in the dark here. Like,
well, what I like about what Carolina did is she had a very specific problem, knew exactly what the solution was, and solved that solution. Right. Which is why it worked. Right? She knew what she wanted to achieve. She didn't just be like, I need a virtual assistant, save me, help, go.
Right.
And then that person, I mean, I don't know who it was, and I'm scared to meet her, but if that person then, proved to be really, really great to work with, then your relationship with, it was a her, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So your relationship with her would have grown if you needed that. And you might have realized that she's somebody who you could continue to offset tasks to that are up her alley as she gets to know you better and gets to know your language better. But you started off with very specific and kind of worked your way up, right? I like that a lot. And I think that's how a lot of these types of relationships start. That's how when I hired my first assistant, it was the first person that I hired. That's exactly how mine started. I mean, she was in Georgia. She wasn't in Toronto, and it was 10 hours a week, then 20 hours a week, then I think 25. And I was with her for 5 years.
And you had what, 5 hours, Catalina? How much time was your virtual assistant spending?
Yeah, I would say maybe, from 3 to 5 hours a week. It was very, it wasn't a lot that was needed at that time, but it was what was needed in that moment. So it totally saved me. Like, it was a really good fit.
And let me tell you because over time, what you really want is for somebody to particularly like handle your email and a lot of that really time consuming type work. And it's a process to gain comfort to offset that. And there's some trust involved. One of the things that we have as kind of a mantra at our company is I would much rather you take ownership, take action, and do something and make a bit of a mistake than I would you asking me every little thing to do because you're not quite sure. And the only corollary to that is it's important for me to define in every single case across our company what constitutes a catastrophic mistake versus what doesn't. There's very few actual catastrophic mistakes. Like stuff would go wrong a bit. But the reality of it is if you work with good people and smart people, they're pretty smart. They don't
happen.
Right? And so then they kind of know if they're doing something, is this something I need to ask John about? Or now in our company, we have, project leaders for each project, like Amber, who, couldn't make it to this episode, but she's the project leader for the podcast. Right. I think there's 12 people involved in the podcast. And so she's the project leader for it. So do I need to ask Amber about this or can I just do it? And 99% of the time, just doing it is fine. But that 1% of the time, it's like, this could constitute, this could be like a pretty big problem if it goes wrong. So I could ask somebody about it. So if you can effectively enough lay out where somebody can take ownership of their job, and I think that is largely contingent upon what constitutes a catastrophic mistake. And then empower people to do stuff. Like, I want you to try stuff. I want you to figure it out. And if it doesn't go right, well, then we'll talk about it afterwards.
Right.
I'd like to circle back to something that you said in the beginning that resonated with me quite a bit, because even today, you love to do that. When you say something that is like right, you're like, all right, let's go over it again. So like, for example, like even today, like this is how I operate. I'm very goal oriented. And so in terms of saving time, like for me, like Jonathan explained in the beginning, like it's not about always grinding and pumping out work and adding more work. Like it's about working smart so that you earn the right to have leisure free time to waste in any shape or form that you want. That feels amazing. Yeah. And I will do whatever needs to get done super early in the morning, like in the first block of my day, because when around 12:30, 1 o'clock hits, I want to be out on the beach. I don't want to be sitting in front of my computer. So that's my motivation. Right. Like I work more effectively because there's a goal at the end of the day.
Well, in your own words, I mean, it's gratuitous bikini selfie season, right?
For sure. Like I cannot, absolutely. I mean, these selfies are not going to take themselves, right? No. So, I mean, I need it. So
you can actually really use an assistant, I feel like, Carolina, you need somebody to go with you to the beach, to bump the light off of you, to hold the ring light,
I need just like my crew, like my staff. I need staff. I feel like I need staff. Just like yes.
You know,
that's like a real thing, isn't that weird? The amount of people I know that have full-time videographers that follow them around all day.
Absolutely.
I'm like, wow. How is your life interesting?
What?
I just find it interesting that Carolina likes to relax, by her own admission here, around the exact time of day that we record these podcasts. And it really explains a lot.
Right now, I'm like, come on, guys.
It really explains a lot about her contributions daily to these episodes. Now I get it. You know.
Let me give a few other little tidbits.
Please do.
Get away from this nonsense that I love so much. Let me give a few quick tidbits of just little tasks, just because we're running out of time and I got to get going, and Carolina's got to get to the beach for gratuitous bikini selfie season.
Absolutely.
Although Carolina, it's a little bit overcast here. I don't know how it is in Barrie. I know the weather patterns there are completely different, but just be careful. When it's overcast, you could actually get a sunburn. There are three. I mean, there's lots of little things I do, but there's three that I feel like could really be impactful for anybody listening to this. And I want to just lay them out super, super fast. So number one is never answer the same question twice. The amount of questions we get as fitness professionals from our clients, from people on social media, from anything is quite large for a lot of us. The amount of different questions we get is actually really, really small. So whenever you get a question, write out a really good response to it, then take that response and template it into general terms, and then copy and paste that thing over, because now this FAQ that you have can work as an SOP, as something that an assistant can take and answer on your behalf. That's number one. Number two is to control your email, and the best way to control email is to view it differently than I think a lot of people view it. Email is not a task. Email is where tasks come to accumulate. And so if you just say, I'm going to work on my email now, I'm going to work through my email now, I'm going to check my email, you are immediately setting yourself up for failure. Instead, what I suggest is, again, in your email, you actually only have 3 or 4 categories of messages, right? Client inquiries, client check-in type messages, junk, newsletters from amazing companies like the PGDC that you absolutely want to save and read and pass on.
Obviously.
And then, you know, like financial, accounting, whatever. And then stuff from friends and family, maybe. Like, that's basically it. So create a folder for each of those things in your email. And then actually go into email, and your task is to sort your email. It should take you like 5-10 minutes. Go in one time and just rip all of the things into their folders. Don't even open the emails yet. And then you set a task of, I'm going to respond to client inquiries. Well, they're all in there waiting for you. Right. One by one by one by one by one. You can just rip them out super fast. Right? I'm going to do all of my financial stuff. Like, I have my assistant now, but like I used to do this myself. I just have a folder that's called to pay. basically my job these days, is to talk on this podcast and write checks for other people to do work, which is weird. But I have to pay a lot of people, and that's that's the last thing that I will ever offset in my company. I actually don't do a lot of the day-to-day work, but I still control all of the bank accounts and whatnot. And so, and because we pay people worldwide, you know, we have payroll systems, but they don't always pay to people internationally and stuff like that. So I have to manually pay people. Well, 3 times a month, just for reasons you won't care about, we have to do it 3 different times of the month. I have a block in my schedule for 15 minutes to pay. My assistant puts everything in that to pay, and I go down and I pay every single one of them. And that's a combination of like writing checks, going on PayPal, doing a money transfer, whatever. You can do that exact same thing, you know, versus paying people one-off. That's just an example. And the final one is articles on the internet. This is a trick that I love doing. How many times do you come across something on the internet where you're like, this looks awesome, I really want to read this, but I'm doing something else?
Yes, all the time.
And
every day, every second of
every day.
It's like online squirrels. Squirrel.
And so
squirrel.
Install Evernote. It's free. Into your browser on your computer. Evernote allows you to clip content on the web as simplified articles. So what you can do is you can go into the settings in Evernote, and you can actually say, you can set it so it automatically selects everything as a simplified article. You click on the browser extension when you're on the page. It rips away all of the other junk on the website and just leaves you with plain text. And then it saves that to Evernote to a specific folder. So I have a folder in my Evernote called To Read From the Net. So whenever I come across anything interesting on the internet, I click on it really quick. I don't even look at it. I just click To Read From the Net. And then I continue doing what I'm doing. And again, in my schedule, once a week, I have a reading block for 2 hours. And for me, just because I'm super fancy and I hate myself because of how fancy I'm turning into, my assistant actually prints everything from that file for me and hands it to me when it's time for that time. But you could easily just pop it open on like an iPad or something like that and read them during that time versus continually distracting you, right? It's just these little things that allow you to do more in the same amount of time. And I just thought that maybe those 3 for anybody listening would be really useful.
Love it. I know I'm going to be applying them because I don't right now. And I need those, especially the email one. Like email can be such a time suck. Oh my goodness.
Email
trying to make sense of what's in there is a nightmare.
It's my least favorite thing that I deal with as a coach.
So Len,
email.
You know it's your least favorite thing.
I do.
That is the first thing that you outsource to
VA?
Somebody else.
I need to.
Yeah.
I don't answer my own email.
I love this strategy.
I don't answer my email. When I walk in the morning, we have a 15-minute check-in with my assistant every single day, where one of the tasks of the check-in, she goes over my day and like basically asks me what I need for that day to prepare for everything. But then she goes over all of the emails and I tell her how to respond.
That makes a lot of sense, because I blew a tire last week and I emailed you for some help, and the reply I got back was "suck it up," and I was like, "This is harsh." but now I know why. You know, Jonathan normally doesn't talk to me like this, but now I understand. Good job, assistant.
She's way nicer than I am. Yeah. But
keeping you efficient.
If you know that that's what drains your energy, if you know that that's how many different, if you really took a step back and you looked at your email, how many different types of messages and responses are there? There's not many.
Not many. Five would be probably too excessive of an answer. It's probably more so 3.
Right.
So
your job by the time we record this next Tuesday, Ren, is to report back with steps on how you're going to eliminate your own time on email.
Yeah.
I love it, because you know what? This goes back to what we tell our clients, that one step at a time. Here you're compartmentalizing your different topics of email, and you're tackling one topic at a time. So your entire attention and mind frame is on that one topic, one task at a time, one step at a time, right?
This is my action item for the week, ladies and gentlemen. Listening to the podcast.
But let's do the show notes because I got to go.
All right, we got you. First of all, if you like the podcast, if you love it, like, click, subscribe, follow, whatever you need to do. Leave us a review, man. We love the reviews. Like, leave more reviews. We might read your review here on the next episode, and you will win the fabulous prize of hearing your name read by someone on the episode. To get the show notes, you can go to onlinetrainer.com/podcast. This has been episode 14 of the Online Trainer Show. My name is Ren Jones, signing us off for Carolina Belmontes, the efficient one, Jonathan Goodman, the intelligent one, both of whom are very well lit. Hey, roll the jingle. Roll that beautiful jingle. Let's get out of here. We shouldn't have a podcast.
This is the Online Trainer Show. Trainer Show. Trainer Show. This is the Online Trainer Show.
We shouldn't have a podcast. Cheryl, I'm about to troll Jonathan Goodman on his own podcast, and I feel good about it.
I'm down for that.
It may cost me my job, but you've seen what I make.
Maybe a few less cans of beans.
These loonies are heavy to move around my apartment anyway. Like, slip the disc, trying to transfer these funds to my bank. I had to reduce the tire pressure in my car. They're like, "What is in this car?" I got stopped by several officers. It's riding low there, buddy. It's just my payment from the Online Trainer Show. Oh, yeah, like, we heard it. That's what they said. We've dealt with Goodman. We know he pays in. We know he pays in loonies.
The police force out there in North Carolina really know me. Well.
Right. So North Carolina is trending as one of the hot spot areas for COVID-19 right now, by the way.
No.
I literally as a North Carolinian, I cannot go to New York or Connecticut or Jersey, maybe. Not that I wanted to go to Jersey. I mean,
nobody wants to go to Jersey.
Yeah, it's not like I don't feel jilted by that. But but I would have to quarantine for 14 days upon arrival in any one of those states because I live in a hot spot. North Carolina, South Carolina, and Texas, I think. Are we recording? Are you recording me already on the slide, Jonathan?
Yeah. Let's get started.
And what's our topic? It's hey, was that better, by the way? Last episode, I know you probably don't remember it. It's a blur.
I think so. I
mentioned the topic like 3 times before we got to the ad.
I liked it. I thought it was good.
Okay, so I'll start with that up front. How to free up tons of time. Yeah, I need to free up tons of time. And what episode are we on? 13?
14.
14, whatever.